Hello, everyone. Uh, I need you to stop and really hear me right now because what I'm picking up on is so raw and so intense that I actually had to pause before recording this. There's someone in your life who made a choice, a deliberate choice to push you away, to create distance, to shut you out. And at the time when it happened, it probably felt like the most painful thing you had ever experienced. Like the ground had been ripped from beneath your feet. Like everything you thought was real suddenly wasn't. But here's what's happening right now, and this is the part that's making my hands shake as I record this. That person, they're in pieces. Welcome back. It's Anna. And someone really pushed you away. They made a choice that cost them everything, and they didn't even see it coming until it was too late. And the desperate regret they're currently feeling, it's consuming them in ways they never imagined possible when they made that choice. Let me tell you what I'm sensing, because this is deeply layered. You may be someone who's been sitting with rejection for a while now, maybe weeks, maybe months, maybe longer. And you've been doing what people do when they get pushed away, trying to make sense of it, replaying conversations, analyzing what went wrong, wondering if you did something, wondering if you weren't enough. Some people experience this kind of rejection as a full body shutdown. Their appetite changes, their sleep changes, their motivation disappears. They go through their days feeling hollow and disconnected from everything that used to matter. It might feel like you're walking through your life, but you're not really in it. Like you're watching yourself go through the motions while the real you is stuck somewhere back in that moment. That moment when they chose to leave, when they chose distance over closeness, when they chose to push away someone who was genuinely there for them. Let me just pause here for a second, because I need you to understand something before we go any further. What happened to you wasn't because you weren't enough. It wasn't because you did something wrong. It wasn't because there was something fundamentally broken about you or what you had together. This reflection invites you to consider, what if their decision to push you away had everything to do with them and almost nothing to do with you? You may have been carrying this like a personal failure, like a referendum on your worth as a person, like evidence that you're not lovable or not valuable or not worth staying for. But it's possible that their choice to push you away was actually their failure, their inability to handle something, their fear of something, their own internal chaos that had nothing to do with your value. Some situations in life teach us that other people's inability to stay isn't about our inability to be enough. It's about their inability to handle the depth of what was being offered. In some situations, people push away the very thing that could save them because getting saved requires vulnerability, and vulnerability terrifies them. That might be exactly what happened here. Hold on. Let me get real with you about what this person is currently going through. There's this thing that happens when someone pushes away a person they actually wanted to keep. They think they'll be fine. They think the distance will feel like relief. They think they made the rational choice, the safe choice, the choice that protects them from whatever they were afraid of. But within days or weeks or months, the reality sets in. The space they created doesn't fill with peace. It fills with absence, with regret, with this gnawing awareness that what they pushed away was actually exactly what they needed. It's possible this person is currently waking up every morning and the first thing they feel is loss, not abstract loss, specific loss. They think about you. They think about moments you shared. They think about how things felt when you were present in their life. And then they remember that they're the one who made you leave. They're the one who created this distance. They're the one who chose to push away something real. Some people experience this kind of regret as a physical sensation, a tightness in the chest that won't go away, a restlessness that makes it hard to sit still, a constant low-level anxiety that something important is missing. You may have no idea they're feeling this. You may have moved on, or you may be trying to move on. You may be giving them the space they asked for. You may be honoring the distance they created. And meanwhile, on their end, things are falling apart in ways they didn't predict. This reflection invites you to consider, what if the person who pushed you away is currently experiencing the exact opposite of what they thought they'd feel? Let me talk about why they pushed you away in the first place. It's possible they were scared, not of you, of what you represented, of how deeply you made them feel, of how much they actually cared about you when caring about people felt dangerous to them. Some people have been hurt so badly in the past that intimacy feels threatening, not because the current person is threatening, but because their nervous system has learned that closeness leads to pain, that vulnerability leads to disappointment, that letting someone in leads to eventually losing them. So they do the thing that feels safest. They leave first. They create distance before someone else can. They push away before they can be pushed away. It's a defense mechanism, a survival strategy, not a reflection of how they actually feel. You may have sensed this at the time, may have seen the fear behind their actions, may have even tried to reassure them that it was safe, that you weren't going anywhere, that they didn't have to protect themselves from you. But sometimes reassurance doesn't work when the wound is deep enough. Sometimes someone has to leave and then feel the consequence of leaving before they truly understand what they had. It's possible they're understanding that right now, in real time, through the pain of absence. This reflection invites you to consider, what if their pushing you away was actually them running from something inside themselves? There's something about their current state that I need to share with you. It's possible they've tried to fill the space you left. They've looked for something or someone to replace what they had with you. They've tried to convince themselves they made the right choice. They've attempted to build a life that doesn't include you in it. And none of it is working. Nothing fills that space. Nothing compares. Nothing gives them the same feeling of being seen and understood and held that they had when you were present. Some people experience this as a growing awareness that nothing else measures up, that the comparison isn't even close, that what they pushed away was singular and irreplaceable. And that awareness is devastating because they can't just undo what they did. They can't just snap their fingers and have you back. They created this situation and they have to live in it. You may be completely unaware of how desperately they're feeling right now. You might think they're fine. You might think they've moved on. You might think your absence isn't affecting them. But it's possible their life feels fundamentally different without you in it. Quieter, emptier, less alive. This reflection invites you to consider, what if you matter more to someone right now than you have any idea? Let me talk about what desperate regret actually looks like in someone's daily experience. It might look like them picking up their phone 100 times a day, wanting to text you, typing something and then deleting it, starting a message and then stopping themselves, wanting to reach out but being too proud or too ashamed or too scared of rejection to actually do it. Some people experience this loop obsessively. The wanting and the stopping, the reaching and the pulling back, over and over throughout the day. It might look like them going to places you used to go together and feeling your absence there, seeing something that reminds them of you and feeling that sharp twist in their chest, hearing a song and suddenly being flooded with memories of moments with you that they can never get back. You may not see any of this because it's all happening internally, behind closed doors, in their private moments when no one is watching. But it's happening. It might look like them talking about you to others. Maybe not directly, maybe in roundabout ways, maybe asking mutual connections about you, maybe checking your social media even though they know they shouldn't, maybe keeping up with your life from a distance because they can't fully let go even though they told themselves they were letting go. This reflection invites you to consider, is there someone currently keeping tabs on you even though they're supposed to have moved on? There's something about their pride that's making this even harder for them. It's possible they're the type of person who doesn't easily admit they were wrong, who doesn't easily say, I made a mistake, who would rather suffer in silence than admit that pushing you away was the biggest error of their life. Some people are so invested in being right, in maintaining their position, in never having to back down, that they'll endure enormous pain rather than admit they were wrong about something. You may have experienced this about them before. Their stubbornness, their inability to apologize, their insistence on being the one who made the rational choice even when the consequences proved otherwise. And right now, that pride is war with their regret. One part of them is screaming to reach out, to fix this, to tell you how they actually feel. The other part is maintaining the wall, protecting their ego, refusing to be the one who comes crawling back. It might look like they're fine from the outside, like they're handling it, like they've moved on, but that's the mask. Behind the mask is someone who's desperately regretting a choice they can't easily undo. This reflection invites you to consider, have you noticed this person maintaining appearances while everything might be falling apart behind the scenes? Let me slow down and talk about what this means for you and your current emotional state. It's possible you're still hurting, still processing, still feeling the aftershocks of being pushed away. And on top of that, you might be feeling guilty, wondering if you should reach out, wondering if you should make it easier for them, wondering if you should forgive and forget and go back to how things were. But here's what I'm sensing about your situation. You shouldn't have to be the one to bridge this gap. You shouldn't have to make it comfortable for them to come back to you. You shouldn't have to do the emotional labor of healing a wound they inflicted. Some people in your life might be telling you to be the bigger person, to reach out first, to put your feelings aside and think about what could be salvaged. But that's not fair to you because you didn't create this distance. They did. The responsibility for addressing it should sit with them. You may be torn right now. Part of you wants them to know how much they hurt you. Part of you wants them to feel that regret fully before you give them any relief from it. Part of you still cares enough to not want them to suffer. All of those feelings are valid. None of them cancel each other out. You can want them to regret what they did and still care about them as a person. Both things can be true simultaneously. This reflection invites you to consider, what do you actually need from this person before anything else can happen? Let me talk about the power dynamic that's currently present. It's possible for the first time in this dynamic, you hold the power. When they pushed you away, they thought they were taking control. They thought distance was their card to play. They thought creating space would protect them. But what actually happened is they transferred the power to you because now you're the one who gets to decide what happens next. You're the one who gets to set the terms. You're the one who gets to determine whether this connection lives or dies. And they know it. They can feel it. The desperation they're experiencing is partly because they recognize that they handed you the deciding vote and they have no control over how you're going to use it. Some people find this realization empowering. They've spent so long feeling like they were at someone else's mercy, and now the dynamic has shifted. Now someone else is the one waiting. Someone else is the one hoping. Someone else is the one who needs to make a move. You may not have fully recognized this power shift yet. You might still be operating from the wounded place, still feeling like the one who was rejected, still seeing yourself as the person who was left rather than the person who now holds the choices. But the reality is you are the one with the choices right now. They can't undo what they did without your participation. They can't get back to you without you allowing it. This reflection invites you to consider what would you require from them before you'd even consider letting them back in. There's something about boundaries that's critically important in your current situation. It's possible that if they do reach out, if their regret becomes loud enough that they can't contain it anymore, you shouldn't just forgive and go back to normal, because normal is what led to this pain. Some people cycle. They push away and come back and push away and come back. And each time the person who gets pushed away hopes this time will be different. This time they'll stay. This time the pushing away won't happen again. But what if you required something different this time? What if before you let them back into your life, you required them to do actual work, actual accountability, actual evidence that they've dealt with whatever made them push you away? You may have let them back in too easily before, without conditions, without requirements, without protecting yourself from the same pattern repeating. And this time, you don't have to do that. This time, you get to set the terms. This reflection invites you to consider what would need to change before you'd feel safe letting someone back in after they hurt you. Let me talk about what you're learning through all of this pain. It's possible this experience, as devastating as it's been, is teaching you something important about yourself, about what you will and won't accept, about what you need in order to feel safe, about the difference between love and fear. Some people don't know their own boundaries until those boundaries get crossed. They don't know what they need until what they need is taken away. They don't understand their own value until someone treats them in a way that forces them to defend it. You may be in that process right now, discovering exactly how much this person's treatment of you is unacceptable, discovering exactly what you deserve, discovering exactly what kind of treatment you're never going to accept again. And that discovery, that might be the most valuable thing to come out of this entire painful situation. This reflection invites you to consider, what are you learning about yourself through being pushed away? It might surprise you. The clarity you're developing might be the most powerful thing that's come from what felt like pure destruction. There's something about your current state that I want to acknowledge. It's possible you're stronger right now than you were before this happened. Not despite the pain, but because of it. Because surviving this kind of rejection and still being here and still being whole has proven something fundamental about your resilience. Some people break when they get pushed away. They collapse. They fall apart completely. They let the rejection define them and diminish them and destroy them. But you're still here, still reading this, still processing, still feeling, still trying to understand and make meaning from something that felt meaningless. That strength, that matters. That's real. You may not feel strong right now. You may feel exhausted and confused and hurt, but looking at it from the outside, the fact that you're still standing is impressive. This reflection invites you to consider What has surviving this rejection revealed about your inner strength? Let me talk about something that might bring up complicated feelings. It's possible that even though this person is desperate and regretting their choice, that doesn't automatically mean you need to take them back. Regret doesn't erase harm. Desperation doesn't equal readiness for change. Someone feeling bad about what they did doesn't guarantee they won't do it again. Some people cycle through regret and reconciliation repeatedly. They push away, regret it, come back, feel safe again, push away again. It's a pattern, and patterns repeat unless something genuinely changes. You may be tempted when they reach out, and they might to just go back to how things were because you miss them, because the pain is real, because the connection was genuine, even if the handling was terrible. But this reflection invites you to consider, are you willing to go through this exact same pain again? Because if nothing genuinely changes in them is less than #0, 5 is greater than you will. There's something about your worth that needs to be clear in this moment. It's possible you've been measuring your value based on whether this person chooses to stay or leave. If they stay, you're enough. If they leave, you're not. And their pushing you away shattered your sense of self-worth in a way that's been hard to rebuild. But your worth was never determined by their choices. You were valuable before they entered your life. You were valuable when they pushed you away. You're valuable right now, sitting with the pain of it. And the fact that they're desperately regretting pushing you away, that's not what makes you valuable. You were valuable before their regret confirmed it. This reflection invites you to consider, what if you could feel your worth independent of whether someone chooses to stay? You remain in complete control of how this unfolds. If they reach out, you decide whether to engage. You decide what conditions to set. You decide whether their regret earns them another chance or whether you've decided to protect yourself by moving forward. No one can make that choice for you. Not them, not mutual friends, not society's expectations about forgiveness or second chances. The power is yours. It always has been. You may notice as you finish reading this that something is shifting. Maybe it's clarity, maybe it's anger, maybe it's grief, maybe it's strength, maybe it's all of it at once. Whatever it is, honor it. Let yourself feel it completely. Take what resonates, discard what doesn't. Trust what you know in your bones. Before we close, I need to ask you something. How did it feel when someone pushed you away? And how are you feeling about that person right now? Drop it in the comments if you need to speak it out loud. And this, if they came back desperately wanting to fix things, what would you actually need from them before you'd even consider it? What would you need to see change before you could trust someone who hurt you? Someone really pushed you away? Yes. They're desperate and regretting it badly? It's possible. It's likely. Because what they pushed away was real and irreplaceable, and they're probably starting to understand that now. But here's the thing. Their regret is their journey to walk. Your healing is yours. And those two things don't have to be connected unless you choose to connect them. Not eventually. Right now, today, in this moment where you hold more power than you realize. Trust yourself with this. Trust that you deserve someone who doesn't need to lose you to value you. Trust that regret is not the same as readiness. Trust that your worth exists whether they recognize it or not. You don't need their regret to validate your pain. You don't need their desperation to confirm your value. You already know what you're worth. I'll see you in the next one. And listen. Someone pushing you away and then regretting it is one of the most painful dynamics a person can go through. Be gentle with yourself through this. You're allowed to hurt. You're allowed to be angry. You're allowed to take your time. And you're allowed to decide what happens next entirely on your own terms. Take your time. Trust yourself. You've got this.